Hi again. Walter Rauschenbusch, page 237 of Christianity and the Social Crisis. The present crisis. Rauschenbusch has been dealing with the slavery of wage labor. He says, this constant insecurity and fear pervading the entire condition of the working people is like a corrosive chemical that disintegrates their self-respect. For an old man to be able to look about him on the farm or business he has built up by the toil of his life is a profound satisfaction, an antidote to the sense of declining strength and gradual failure. For an old man after a lifetime of honest work to have nothing, to amount to nothing, to be turned off as useless, and to eat the bread of dependence is a pitiable humiliation. I can conceive of nothing so crushing to all proper pride as for a working man to be out of work for weeks, offering his work and his body and soul at one place after the other, and to be told again and again that nobody has any use for such a man as he. It is no wonder that men take to drink when they are out of work, for drink, at least for a while, creates illusions of contentment and worth. The recessional of alcohol has the refrain, "Let us forget." Every great strike, every industrial crisis pushes some men over the line of self-respect into petty thievery and vagrancy, and over the gate to the long road of hoboism is written, "Leave all hope behind, all ye that enter here." To accept charity is at first one of the most bitter experiences of the self-respecting working man. Some abandon their families, go insane, or commit suicide rather than surrender the virginity of their independence. But when they have once learned to depend on gifts, the parasitic habit of mind grows on them, and it becomes hard to wake them back to self-support. They have eaten the food of the lotus eaters, and henceforth, surely, surely, slumber is more sweet than toil. It would be a theme for the psychological analysis of a great novelist to describe the slow degradation of the soul when a poor man becomes a pauper. During the great industrial crisis in the 1890s, I saw good men go into disreputable lines of employment, and respectable widows consent to live with men who would support them and their children. One could hear human virtue cracking and crumbling all around. Whenever work is scarce, petty crime is plentiful. But that is only the tangible expression of the decay in the morale of the working people on which statistics can seize. The corresponding decay in the morality of the possessing classes at such a time is another story. But industrial crises are not inevitable in nature. They are merely inevitable in capitalism. A similar corrosive influence is the hatred generated by our system. The employees are often hot with smoldering resentment at their treatment by the employers, and the employers are at least warm with annoyance at the organizations of the men, and full of distrust for the honesty and willingness of their helpers. Keeping in mind this is 1907, when the labor movement and unions were just getting going. Rauschenbusch goes on, the economic loss to both sides in every strike is great enough, but the loss in human fellowship and kindliness is of far greater moment. It would be far better for a community to lose $1 million by fire than to lose it by a strike or lockout. The acts of violence committed on both sides by legalized means on the one, by spontaneous brutality on the other, are only the efflorescence of the inflamed feeling created. And the acute inflammation tends to become chronic. Every animal will fight other animals that trench on its feeding grounds. Every social class in history has used whatever weapons it had, sword, law, ostracism, or clerical anathema, to strike at any other class that endangered its income. Railways use lobbies. Their employees use clubs. Each uses the weapon that is handy and effective. But it is all brutalizing and destructive. Strikes are mild civil war, and war is hell. If our industrial organization cannot evolve some saner method of reconciling conflicting interests than 24,000 strikes and lockouts in 20 years, it will be a confession of social impotence and moral bankruptcy. Next time he takes up the physical decline of the people. Put a link into a sermon I once had to give called Solomon in All His Glory. And that focuses on F.W. Farrer's introduction of a thought that was new to me, which was that the kingdom in Israel, beginning in the period of Solomon really, although the foundation was laid by his father David, the kingdom in Israel brought about social breakdown in Israel. The complete disruption of what had come before, God's original plan, agrarian plan for the people of Israel.